Welcome to the Rocket Roof Show, where we equip fellow roofers to do more commercial business every first and third Thursday of the month. It's time to launch your business to the next level.
This is Project Command. Stand by to power transfer.
3, 2, 1, blast off!
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Roof Show with Andy Neer, your host here. And I have with me Tim Nussbeck from Swift Services. Just want to say real quick here, if you're listening to this and you feel somebody that you know would get some value out of this show, what we do is we try to provide as much information to educate and equip contractors for the commercial roofing market. So if you feel like somebody could get some use of this, like and share our page. That really helps us to grow and to reach out there and to help this industry as best as we can. So without further ado, I want to introduce Tim Nussbeck here of Swift Services. He's got quite a bit of roofing experience and background out of the Kansas City area. I'm going to take a moment and let him introduce himself, give himself a little bit of background, and I'd like to hear your story for a moment there.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. So, glad to take a few minutes to chat with everybody. My background, I was, a young kid at the time. I was just out of high school, and like a lot of us had no idea what I was going to do with my life. And I had two older brothers that were in the roofing business. They always knew it was around and kind of, it spent a little bit time around it and convinced me to get on a plane. And then a couple of days later, Hurricane Charlie had hit Florida. So it was kind of, jumping right into the fire. And anybody who was down there experienced what that was like. That was my introduction to the roofing business.
You went down there before the hurricane, not after?
I got down there a couple of days after the hurricane. So I committed to getting into the roofing business, and I forget where it's going to go. And then my brother called me. He's like, we're going to Orlando, Hurricane Charlie. Probably, living accommodations probably won't be real pleasant for a while, but come down here and learn how to sell some roofs. And that was my probably not a crazier place to get introduced to the business in a massive hurricane down in Florida, of all places, if you've ever roofed down there.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have.
Yeah, it's interesting. And,
I lasted about 4 months and I got out of there.
Yeah, right. I was down there for about 2 years. And then, my brother had this idea to start a company. A lot of people know Aspen Contracting, and split off with a partner then and started that company. It started in really my mom's attic, and, quickly grew that business to be, a large company. Did, after a couple of years after the inception, do 80+ million a year to still hang out in those numbers. And a couple of years ago, you get burnt out of dealing with a couple hundred salespeople and traveling, 300+ days out of the year around the country. I decided to, start Swift, and, our focus, like you guys, with commercial contractors, help contractors and their business just more freedom, create scalability inside of it without, killing themselves in the process. Like I experienced a lot of years and a lot of sacrifices helping people don't experience those same type of things. So that's a kind of our mission, of my mission and our company's mission today.
So tell me in a nutshell exactly what Swift Services does.
Yeah, we look to help companies build through systems. So we really go in depth of what do they look like, feel like, everything from A to Z. And I have a concept is, a business has 7 parts, any business, and we just don't work with roofing contractors. We have a couple other industries. As you have your sales systems, you have what we consider an onboarding system, because we look at how we deal with employees and subcontractors as a core function in our business. A predictable recruiting system for employees and subcontractors, of production or fulfillment if you're not in the roofing industry, admin, collections, and your financial system. So really taking those parts of the business and really getting into the weeds. And a lot of the times is, business owners and companies have have it in their head. Sometimes just, how do we extract that? How do they look and feel so they're easy and simple, and it, people hear this and they think there's like all this technology and stuff involved, but really simplify it so everybody can understand what's going on. And I think, I had the problem for a lot of years is, I was scared to delegate because I didn't have a system, or I would end up in situations where I'm like, man, I keep telling the person to do the same thing over and over and they can't get it right. Then I get frustrated and I'm like, why can't you do this the way I tell you to do it? Well, they didn't understand it for a number of different reasons. So it's a lot of what we help contractors with.
Okay. So take a little bit of a rabbit trail here, but I want to save this to the end because of what's going on in the nation right now with this Corona thing. And, I think we would behoove ourselves if we didn't touch on that subject a little bit. I don't want to go into depth, but I think I'm going to save that till to the end of the podcast. So if you're listening to this, we're going to give a little snippet at the end on kind of what we're doing, and we might, Tim and I might have two different takes on it, which I think we do because we're in different parts of the country. So hang out to the end of the podcast. We'll address that. But I want to go off your last comment there with you work primarily with contractors. And I got to give you props, man, because they're some of the most hard-headed, stubborn, slow learning. I'm speaking from my self-experience here, guys. And usually that's how we got in the industry, right? We didn't want to we didn't want to go to college, and we went on our own to start our own business because we couldn't listen to other people. We wanted to be our own boss, and so we're naturally hard-headed. We naturally have a hard time focusing. And for me, I'm an abstract thinker, so I have a hard time focusing. And when somebody says, well, you just got to create a process, and I'm like, holy crap, that just sounds complicated. But you since you've dealt with a lot of contractors, you must have a way to be able to dumb it down or communicate with them and say, it doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be a 300-page manual. Processes can be easier than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've gone through what you're talking about, those 300-page company manuals and these big things. And, a number of years have got away from it. And, what we like to do is show contractors an example of what they look like. And I can tell you this, before there's any technology and a lot of the different stuff we use today, there's a couple things that I've always done is it can be as simple as taking Post-it notes on a whiteboard and writing, hey, take how we handle like a payroll or even onboarding a subcontractor into our business. So how do we streamline this? How do we make people understand it? I mean, I've literally gone to the whiteboard of here are the steps, Post-it note them on there, and then you can start to go through that document. I mean, it can be as simple as that. And then I look at the other side when we document, when we talk about process, a lot of it is just saying, what do I do as an owner? How can I get my team today or my future team to understand it? And how do I get them to buy into it? So I always, when we're doing these processes and we're basically extracting the business from the owner's head or the office manager who's helping with production, we always start with like the why in mind. So why does this process exist? And what problems does it solve? That's kind of the headline of what we do. So the concept is I do this for a certain reason, and I want to be able to basically hand this to current or future employees so they can feel my pain why it exists. Maybe we onboarded a subcontractor incorrectly and it resulted into OSHA fines because we missed X, X, and X. And this is the pain it caused me as the business owner and of the business. And what we find when we help write systems these way, and they're basically just end up being step-by-steps of what we do, the owner feels a relief because they're, able to say, man, these are all the things that I basically have bottled up and I'm able to get people. And it could be 2 years from now, I can hand the same process off and I can get that person to understand the why. And then it helps prevent me as the owner saying, hey, falling in the trap of saying you do this because I said so. I've been there before and I walked away from those situations going, man, I didn't like how that turned out with my interaction with my employee or subcontractor. And it's like, how do I keep myself from one feeling like that And two, if I'm feeling like that, they're probably feeling the same way. So those are simple things that you can do. And it doesn't take high-tech technology and be a Word document and literally be a piece of paper. And just start, going through what does that look like, whiteboarding things. And like I said, I use Post-it notes. So like, hey, here are the different steps or the different people that are involved. Let's go put it on a whiteboard. And also we see that helps, one, I get in the habit is I know what I'm doing. Like I can do it, it becomes muscle memory. And when I'm trying to teach somebody, they just can't follow it. So I'm big, if somebody can see it visually, people learn all sorts of different ways. So if they can see it visually, they can do it, they can see it, they understand the why, they're going to be more apt to be bought in, and you start to create a culture, around that. And then we can see if we're doing things complicated or if they make sense at all.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm in the habit of making things more complicated than they should be.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And I usually, when I go into something, I do it, and then I've got to step back and say, how do I make this simpler, and keep trying to get to that level of simplicity that, I think we all should seek. But for whatever reasons, us as humans, we tend to overcomplicate things.
We'd like to take just a quick break to thank our sponsor, Top Roof Marketing, a full-service marketing group that specializes in the commercial roofing industry. If you're looking to boost the commercial side of your business, they have lots of ideas to connect you with building owners who are looking for help. Visit toproofmarketing.com. So
let me talk from a boss's point of view, where let's say I'm trying to implement a new process. Maybe I'm one of those guys that I don't really have a lot of processes. And really a process is like a routine that's written down, right? Am I correct saying that? We have a lot of routines, but we don't write our routines down. Processes are written down. And so if I'm a new boss and I'm going to start writing processes down, it's hard for me to hold my own feet to the fire or keep myself accountable. How important is it for a leader or for a boss to give their employees or their team members license to keep them accountable? Because I think a lot of employees are like, well, he can tell me to do this and that, but he drops the ball all the time. I drop the ball all the time.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's, wildly important on a number of facts is, you can have all the processes in place, but once again, if I'm a leader, I don't follow it. But two, like I say this, like people are like, you have so much attention to detail and you have processes, because I'm naturally just an unorganized person. Just part of my personality and who I am. So I've really got to commit to having those processes and allowing my team to pull me back in and saying, hey, Tim, you're going out in left field. And I think that's just the culture of teamwork. And I never wanted to be, I am the boss. It's like one of those things. I never had a closed in office. I always sat out with the team. And it was because, it's just that philosophy of being out there with the team, a part of the team, and no one person is bigger than the company, I guess, is just a little bit of the culture that I learned, to be a part of and to help create and nurture. So
we had a little discussion before we started this interview. One thing you said, you said there are 6 or 7 steps and that you have nailed down for processes. One of them was onboarding. How important is onboarding, and what kind of micro steps can you talk to me about onboarding? Before you answer that, because I think one of the biggest pains I hear from contractors is so much turnover that they have. New guy starts, he works for 2 or 3 days, and he leaves. And they just say, well, that's kids nowadays. That's the industry nowadays, and there's nothing you can do about it. But I really think if guys would hone in on their onboarding process, they might not eliminate it, but I think they could really cut down on a lot of their turnover.
Yeah, I think, when I break those, I call them core systems of any business. It's up there with your sales, your financial, and your marketing onboarding is. And I learned this the hard way is, I was going through, and I just tell you, dealing with sales reps and subcontractors and just struggling to get anybody to do what I want. I'm like, great, I have great training. we have great process. And it took a while, and it took one of my office managers saying, hey, Tim, have you ever thought about the environment that you introduce subs, salespeople, new team members to? It's absolutely chaotic from the moment they step in the door, and then you're trying to take them into this training that is so system and process based about how we operate. And it really took me going back and doing a real self-evaluation of a leader and saying, okay, that's not what I want, my team to feel. And I started to think about it, and our subs, our team members, all of those people are the ones who are really interacting with the customer. So thinking of, would I introduce my customer to this chaotic environment? No, but that's essentially what I'm doing and teaching. And then it took me down the rabbit hole of, if any person takes a few minutes after this, go just Google onboarding statistics for new employees and subs and third parties, and the impact it has on retention. I started to, and it's eye-opening, some of the things that come into it. And then, okay, I took ownership of this. I have a problem now. How do I fix it? And so, like, you start thinking back to those micro steps, as I wrote, at the top, this is day one, and this was for subs, and this was for, new employees or salespeople that are 1099 or whatever that may be, is what do I want that person to experience on their very first day with us? And what does it currently look like to them now? And then basically, what do I want them to experience? And then we start reverse engineering those steps, because we bring a new sub on, or quality control, or somebody's going to be on those things. I want that first day to be really special and unique, and do very small, subtle things to make them not only feel a part of the team, but they don't feel like there's a number, and this just isn't turnover factory. I've been there, some people who know that I've been there before, and it's a horrible experience. So it's like, okay, if I want the first day to feel like this, what are the steps back? We probably have paperwork. Well, that paperwork has to get processed through an HR system. QuickBooks got to get passed, depending on where you're at in your business and how many people are involved. You may have a number of steps. I needed, my crews to follow OSHA, which was a huge thing. And the bigger you get, the more exposure you get. And, after you have some interactions with OSHA, it gets pretty expensive and not so lenient. And it was like, okay, so how do I get them to buy in? And it really all starts at the onboarding process. And, it goes back to, like, whatever that saying is what whatever we accept, we tolerate, or whatever that saying is, it's the
Yep.
same thing. And, once I started doing
whatever we tolerate continues.
Yeah. And it was so much of just, and then it became, if somebody came from another company and they're like, well, the last company doesn't make me do this, or the next person doesn't. Well, I'm not every company. You want to go, there's 70,000 other roofing companies in the country. Feel free to go work to them. I'm different. And not only is this different, I'm going to show you how it's different. So you're kind of backing those things up. And I used to talk the talk and not actually walk the walk, and it showed. And it really took, a lot of pain and someone pointing it out, saying basically, you're doing the opposite of what you say. And then, saying, okay, we're going to fix this. And I think it's as critical as any other part of the business.
Give me an example. I'm going to ask you to be a little transparent here,
Yep.
but I think a lot of guys would relate to this. Give me an example of where you talked the talk, but you didn't walk the walk.
Where I talked the talk and didn't walk the walk when it comes to like onboarding in general. So I'd come in and I would have a new person start on the team, and I would throw them a stack of papers, say, hey, sign this, I'm going to be back. I'd start dealing with customers, crews. I may yell at somebody in the office, and then I come back and I'm like, okay, you ready to go? Let's go get trained. And that person's, I had no self-awareness at this time. Probably looking at me like, holy crap. And then they quit 2 days later. And, that was a really eye-opening thing is when you start having that. And then, I started to read some studies on onboarding, and it was most people decide within their first week if they're going to stick with that company for less or more than 6 months in that first week. So they're committed mentally, even though if they don't quit on you in that first week, they have in that first 6 months, which you're not getting quality results out of that employee. So I would come back and I look, okay, so I got to go through this self-evaluation, start understanding, my faults, and being a leader and getting the team bought in is like, okay, so how do we make that go back to that first day unique? Because I think that's where it all starts, is doing things like doing a new employee or new stub starter kit, to where it's like, okay, I block out my time, my team's time, when that person starts. It's demoralizing if I bring on somebody new and my production manager's walking by and it's like, oh yeah, we got another new guy here. That doesn't feel like a great experience to that person. Like, oh, they're probably just hiring anybody that walks in. So if I can let my production manager know, we have a process of sending a simple email to everybody. Hey, this is Johnny. Here's his resume. He walks in. Hey, you're John. I heard about you coming on to the team. It's a whole different experience for that new person. And, I think once you start at that day one, you can start to go to that first week or that first month, what that looks like. And I think a lot of people, when they hear onboarding, they think of this massive training programs and all of these things that go along with it. And I just start day back. Let's just start at day one and make that an awesome experience. And we can kind of deal with all the other things that come up. At least I'm winning that first day and that first battle I have with that new employee, sub, whoever it may be.
Yep. I'm glad you got transparent there, because I think a lot of guys, they look at accomplished roofing contractors or whatever, and they're like, well, he doesn't have mistakes. He doesn't have hard times. But I heard you say a specific thing where you said you had to analyze yourself and see your faults. And I think that's very important, because, we all have faults. We all have weak points that I'm not good at organization either. And I think some of us, or many roofing contractors, they don't self-analyze and say, okay, I suck in this area. Either I need to educate myself and get better, or maybe delegate it to somebody that is good at that area.
Yeah.
But they just struggle through it and just hope that it's going to get better by itself. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's a lot of us of, understanding what we're good at and what we like to do. If I don't like to do something, I'm not going to do it well. I know myself. Sometimes, we're business owners. We got to jump in. We got to do some things we don't like to do. But if I have to do that consistently, I'm not going to perform well on it. Yeah, maybe I need to get in there and get my hands dirty. But I know, hey, we have a system. I can get somebody who's really good, and I can pull myself away, because at the end of the day, if you don't do what you love, inside of your business, you can't love doing everything inside of your business.
Yeah, for sure. I hate doing the books, numbers, and stuff like that. So.
Anybody who's ever talked to me is like, I hate QuickBooks. Like I hate the books. It's one thing. There's some certain things I have to do, but around that, one of the good things, you can start to build a team and process around, your weak points, or what I hate to do, which is the books as well.
So, funny fact about me is I would actually like to have to go deal with a customer that had leaks in his building before I would want to do anything with finances or the number or anything like that.
Yeah.
I feel more comfortable talking to a building owner with problems.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same way. So I feel you on that end.
So, okay, cool. Want to talk a little bit about what's the next process that you would say is important to a roofing contractor after onboarding that's maybe simplistic, easy to implement, but people aren't doing?
Having a repeatable recruiting system for the different parts of your business is.
You can't just put a post on Facebook saying I'm looking for people?
No, that's that is absolutely I used to say is I'm in, it took me going to this mindset of saying I am we're roofing contractors. Like at the end of the day, yes, there's some complexity and skill that takes to install a roof, but so many people just do that. Is I'm really in the people acquisition business, whether it be customers and good people. So to have a repeatable recruiting system where I'm constantly attracting people We have a system in place to do phone screenings and in-person interviews, and how all of that ties in. Because even if I'm not looking for a new sub or a new salesperson or whatever it may be, if I find great people, I can find a place for them in my organization. And before you know it, you're just constantly leveling up the people that are working within your company. So, I think it's a lot of times when we work with contractors, is it's this mental hurdle. They hear like recruiting is almost like a dirty word to them. And once they get over the mental hurdle and they feel like they have a process in place and they can trust it, most of them are like, wow, Tim, this is actually not that bad. And they get super geeked out on it, because now they're just, even if they don't hire somebody, they're starting to see that talent pool build. It's kind of like building a pipeline of customers. You're doing the same thing within your business. And, one of the, I think we've all been there before, is you can sell all the jobs you want. If you don't have the production and the team and everybody in place, those jobs and that revenue really don't mean anything. And a bad employee, a bad sub, can be devastating to your business. And I think also when you have, that repeatable and system in place, there are times, and I used to be horrible about firing people. Like, I was the worst. I avoided firing people like I avoided looking at the books, because I knew if I fired that person, I was messed up. I didn't have a replacement or really a plan in place how to do it. I'd been like, oh crap, post things on Facebook ads. I'm gonna hire the next warm body that comes in. But and then it's constantly putting pressure on people within the organization and making them uncomfortable. People being uncomfortable inside of your business is really, really good. It's actually a really simple growth hack, because they know you're constantly looking for great people to bring on and help grow the business, and just breeds a new level of expectation and, delivering results within the business.
And I think we need to take some personal accountability as bosses or employers when we fire somebody, right? Most roofers' mindset is like, well, that guy sucked, so I'm firing him. He lied about what he could do, so I'm firing him, and he wasn't who he said he could be. But really, we hired them.
Yep.
Maybe we didn't ask the right questions. Maybe we didn't call there enough references. Maybe we didn't do enough research. Maybe we didn't describe the job to them. I tell my employees, like, if I let you go or you didn't work out with our company, I take responsibility that maybe I didn't give you the right tools or resources for you to grow. So what do you think about that as far as employers taking responsibility?
Absolutely. So I have this like core value, even in my business today, is everything is your fault. So it's my fault. It's that person's fault. It starts with everybody is taking extreme accountability. And you talk about that, like on the recruiting and firing side, I look at that as even in the sales process. So we all go through it and we're like, oh man, that customer didn't go with us because they're looking for a cheaper bid or whatever the different things is. And it's like to really zone in and is, why didn't that customer go? What did I do wrong? So it's kind of always flipping everything back on me. Did I do everything I did? Did I explain something right in my presentation? Did I not build enough value? And you start to create learning experiences every time you start doing things like that. Like you talk about, like, hey, I hired the wrong person. How did I hire the wrong person? And where did we miss in our process? That's where and this is why, explaining the why and why we put what problem does this solve in every process we help develop is so we can understand that and learn from those mistakes. So it's kind of just like a mental habit to get accustomed to.
So I'm going to close out this really quick with a couple questions for you. I know I didn't prepare you for this, but I always like to ask my guests, give me two tips that our listeners can take away and implement tomorrow, even if they're simple. Let's say they don't really have any processes or structure in their company, but they want it. What are two simple tips that they can implement tomorrow that will help them on their way?
Get a notebook, a simple spiral notebook if you're not tech, or if you use a Google Drive or something, And at the top, you have 4 bullet points to process, and this will help you. One is why does the process exist and what problem does it solve? Who's responsible for it? And what are the step-by-steps that basically go through? It'll help you mind map it a little bit as you go through that. And then I always put like, what's the last step in the process? Something has to end. So every process has a start and finish. So being able to kind of just put that on a piece of paper, you're starting to get the business out of your head, which is one of the biggest challenges of having systems. I always ask contractors when we work with them before we start working, is if I stepped into your business today, Andy, with my experience in the roofing business, I don't know everything, but I got a little bit of experience. How long would it take me to understand how your business works? I'm talking ordering jobs, processing payroll, all of those different things. Would it be hours? Would it be days? Would it be weeks? Would anybody ever be able to figure that out? So that's kind of the test we ask contractors to go through when we work with them. And that really tells you the scalability, the health, and, the market value of your business if you did ever want to sell it or merge or any of those different things as well too. So that's my tip on that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. The last thing I want to move into is obviously what is going on in our nation today. And we actually talked about whether we were going to talk about this or not, but because it's on everybody's mind, unless you're homeless and living under a bridge, you've heard about the Corona thing. And so I think that just to, make sure people know that we're paying attention to the industry, I wanted to ask you, without going off on unfounded facts or, what you heard on some generic news site or whatever, I did want to hear, like, you're in Kansas City. What have you done in the last week that maybe you would have done out of the norm? Like, how has your life or your business changed? Are you doing more online stuff? Maybe your processes are working or proving themselves a little bit more now. That elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think all of our lives have been impacted. I look at a simple thing as I like to get up early in the morning and go to the gym before anybody's in there and get a good workout, and that just has gone away. So past couple of days, so that's been really a mental. Yeah, you can do things at your home or whatever, but that mental routine, that's been something a little hard for myself personally to get over. Plus, we're moving towards a more digital space, so we have team members on Zoom, and somebody may have to change a diaper in the middle of a meeting. Like, these are we try and make light of it and have fun with it, but these are things none of us have really come into the business. So I think we looked at, one of the good things is us being a process driven company. We could look at a couple things and say, hey, we can make a tweak here and a quick adjustment. It really hasn't been that painful, but anybody, like, we're on a Zoom now. I suggest signing up for Zoom with your team members, even for subs. I don't know if it works. I have a couple contractors even using this to pitch property owners and customers so they can see some face-to-face, because, like, it's good to see somebody else's face here, is trying to get creative into a more digital space. And, this may be, I don't want to, say, hey, hypotheticals, but this could help push the roofing industry into a new way. We've never had to test things like this before. So don't be afraid to try new things, but, definitely I would suggest sign up for Zoom. It's like, what do we pay? $15
and Zoom's, I've heard that Zoom stock is just went up incredibly because of more people doing their meetings and conferences, and they can't be face to face, so they're using this platform a lot.
I bet, and I'm not a real techie person. I use technology, but Zoom is super easy, and then it's definitely a learning experience inside of the business, and really tested our systems and in our team of having to work in, really distressed environments with kids and dogs and all these other things going on. And then being distracted about how it impacts our our personal lives as well in business. So it's definitely been an interesting past week, and probably will be hopefully just a few more weeks.
I hope so too. There's a lot of doomsdayers and conspiracy theorists online right now, and if I could give my 2 cents on it, I'm not going to tell those people, don't, stop doing that, because they're just showing genuine concern. They maybe have some family members that have low immune systems or whatever, and so they just, they care that their loved ones don't get this. But I just say, be careful about spreading rumors that are unfounded. They might be from a web news site that might not have factual data. And what's the worst is when people are like, hey, did you see these numbers, blah, 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 blah. I don't know if they're true or not, but look at these numbers. And it's like, well, if you don't know if it's true or not, then don't throw those numbers out there, because people, when they see numbers, they for some reason believe them. And so I just say, we're going to continue to do business as usual. Obviously, we're, washing our hands a little more frequently. And I have to admit, as a contractors aren't the most cleanliest people in the world, so it doesn't hurt to wash our hands a little bit more than normal. But for me anyways, I've been taking some vitamin supplements and some probiotics. I'm 45 years old this month. I never did that before. I was like, I don't eat the healthiest, and I started taking some probiotics and enzyme and stuff like that about a month ago, before this all happened. And just taking some stuff to boost my immune system and stay healthy. And we're not shaking hands and doing fist bumps anymore,
Right.
So I'm just taking a few precautions, but most of it's business as usual. And I did put a post out yesterday on social media about how I had one employee that texted me with some concern. He said, "Hey boss, with this coronavirus going around, should we worried about our jobs?" And I just wrote back to him, said, "Hey, we've done some planning ahead, and we're going to do our best to keep you busy." I got some negative feedback from that, because some people thought I was giving him false hope and that I was not showing him reality. But I'm trying to go off facts. We don't know if it's going to get better. We don't know if it's going to get worse. So I choose to be positive. I choose to not elaborate on the uncertainty and negativity.
Yeah, absolutely. And, where you kind of say business as usual, it's as usual as it can be, but, I choose not to waste my energy. I've never been the type to the what if could happen. It's like, hey, here's what's in front of us today. Here's what has to be accomplished. I can't control what I can't control. None of us know. Nobody knows what the next couple of weeks are going to bring. Is just focused on the day at hand. Here's our task. Here's our weekly goals, and just keep working towards that, and not try and get caught up in everything and all the, I like to say, the noise that's around.
Yep. Well, awesome. It was great having you on today, Tim.
Yeah, thank you.
For those listening, once again, I want to finish by saying, if you got value out of this, or you think somebody that would get value out of this, feel free to like and share this. Do you mind if I give people your contact information, if they want to reach out to you for your services or information, can you give them somewhere to contact you?
Yeah, the best place is you can shoot me a direct email or go to our website, but it's tim@swiftservicesco.com, or swiftservicesco.com is our website. It has a bunch of information about our company and what we do, and always happy to help, even if, in any way we can help. We're always giving advice out to contractors and seeing what we can do. Okay.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you on, and I'm sure we'll have to do this again sometime. And but I hope you have an awesome week, and stay healthy, stay safe.
Yeah, you too.
You've been listening to the Rocket Roof Show podcast. Be sure to subscribe through your favorite podcasting platforms such as iTunes or Google Play to get the latest episodes as they are launched. For more, please follow us on social media or visit our website at rocketroofshow.com. We look forward to joining you here again soon at the next launch.